This is so entertaining at times. I need to go check to see if it recorded, because always these conspiracy-esque recordings don't record the volume for some reason. Okay, this is obviously for educational and conspiracy purposes only, because apparently we live in that kind of world where you need to say that. But I had received this information long ago, and I'm going to say the weird things because we are awakening at a very fast pace, and this is going to resonate with some people, and some people it's not. So that's okay. If it doesn't resonate with you, it's not a big deal. It's not for you yet, and maybe not for you in this lifetime. But we are awakening at a very fast rate. And if you don't know what an awakening is, that's when you kind of become consciously aware of the world around you in a very different light. And I'm here to talk to you about just kind of using my professional background in psychology as as a neurodiversity assessor and supporter, therapist. We need to really talk about the importance of dopamine for the development of your psychic and intuitive senses. Now, there are some really dark stories that are playing out in how this came to be. And a lot of people don't think about this, especially when you're not in conscious development, because it's something when you're starting to learn to connect to source knowledge, which is something I've just started talking about for my journey. I've been getting a lot of this insight and awareness for years, like probably up to 10 or 15 years now. And I was never in a place where I was confident enough to speak the truth out loud. And that's kind of what the neurodynamic community is for. We are truth speakers. It was all very intentional, but there was some really fascinating takedown attempts in how this all came to be. And it all kind of surrounds dopamine, because dopamine is kind of the connector of your awareness. And you need the awareness to create your connection to your source knowledge, your intuition, your psychic senses, stuff we all have the ability to connect to. So to kind of make sense of it, we kind of have to go back in time a little bit to see how, in the tribal days, we have these brains that were really prized. They were the leaders of the tribes. They were the way-showers. They were the hunters, the ones that were astute at hunting, gathering, finding sustenance, animals, tracking, berries, all the things, right? And those groups had some unique abilities to access dopamine naturally, and we have lost that over time. Back then, you spend your evenings around the fire, in the elements, grounding in nature, connecting in a healthy way. Life wasn't crazy chaotic like it is now. The stress levels were low, the executive functions were on, they had a natural connection to their psychic senses and intuitive senses back then. So over time, we have advanced, obviously, and a lot of this advancement is great and fun and all very cool, but it has taken down our ability to achieve and access adequate resources to create dopamine in our bodies. So, and the dopamine is the coordinator that makes this all happen in your prefrontal cortex. So, as technology advanced, we stay inside a lot more, as all the things that, like the pandemics and all the other things, we are not connecting with each other like we used to. Music isn't the same quality it used to be. It's not even recorded at the same frequency it used to be. And if you've seen those experiments with the sand and the geometric shapes from the two recordings, and see what happens to the geometry of the sand, you can see very clearly that something is not aligning very well. And if we're going back, and I'm very fascinated with Nikola Tesla and a lot of his theories about the potential fifth element of the ethers, which we are all accessing in greater abilities that science hasn't really acknowledged yet and should, or they are, but just in very small bits. But that realm, that element is so important to what we're trying to do here. And our ability to feel good about ourselves was one of the most impressive sources of dopamine, or ability to access dopamine. And we live in a world that's just constantly socially conditioned to hate ourselves, hate everything around us, judge and criticize other people, jealousy, shame, guilt, all the things that prevent natural dopamine from being accessed, especially in the neurodynamic community. And as a medical professional, and as a mental health professional, I have known this very early on, that this is why we don't prioritize mental health, and we still don't prioritize mental health. And it's always been very confusing to me, because when you see it from the other perspective and you see how this can really change the world, you see where the darkness comes in on it. Because if we managed mental health from the top, we would have a very healthy world. But a healthy world is not able to be controlled well. And how does this all relate to dopamine and connection to your psychic and intuitive senses? Can't talk today. We need dopamine for awareness. Awareness is an executive function, and awareness is required to connect the dots in the messages you're receiving in your atmosphere from so many different places. And once you start to recover that ability, it's pretty fascinating what happens. And the messaging I've been receiving, which makes perfect sense to me, is that the neurodivergent or neurodynamic community is the community that was created to bring change into this world. It's the really heart-centered brains. I'm not saying anything bad to any other neurotypes. It's just that's why our emotions are so strong. That is the heart-centered part of us. The social justice drive, the emotional intelligence, where's my list? The ability to take inspired action, to speak the truth and overshare, if you will, because all of us have heard that a few times in our life, haven't we? The world we currently live in keeps us in a place of self-loathing, self-judgment, criticism of the world against us, a lot of really low vibrational emotions. And if you understand the map of consciousness, you understand that connection happens as you raise this vibrational frequency. So that's why I'm here. Why am I coming on here and saying this? Because you have the power to change how you feel about yourself. You do not need anyone's permission to tell you how amazing you are. And if I can bring that one little bit of peace into your heart, it's absolutely worth it to me. I've been assessing neurodiversity for a long time. I don't do it anymore, but this is where I made a lot of these connections. And, anxiety and depression, which is what a lot of us are experiencing these days, it takes down everybody's executive functions. So that's why you hear of people saying, we all have a little bit of ADHD or what. You hear that a lot, right? But that's kind of why, because anxiety and depression in the kind of world we live in takes down the prefrontal cortex in the very same way. It's just kind of later onset, except neurodiversity obviously has some other unique little things that I was able to assess for, and a lot of traditional assessors can't see unless you're living in this neurotype. So there is a big difference between the two, but that's why you see this happening. So that's why when we did assessments, we had to, piece apart age of onset, trauma experiences, what their lifestyle was like, what their current stress levels were, all very purposeful. So I wanted to bring this to all of your attention, that you have an amazing brain and it's a time to put it back online. I love you guys.